This is season number 19 of Bass Talk Live with Matt Pengrack. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Aftco, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries. Hit them with the hook, Jeffries.
BTL coming at you.
Good evening, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And yes, we are live on location. I want to say Eufaula, Oklahoma, but it's not technically Eufaula, is it?
It's Eufaula. Well, we're over here in Georgia, but it's actually Eufaula, Alabama.
Yeah, because Eufaula, Oklahoma is where we have a tournament later. Bassmaster Opens goes to both Eufaula, Alabama and Eufaula, Oklahoma this year. But we are in Eufaula, Alabama with Scott Montgomery, VP of Big Bite Baits. We are at the Big Bite Baits headquarters and the factory where you pour, package, and distribute, right?
That's correct.
Absolutely everything is done here. If you guys haven't had a chance, if you go back about a year and a half on Bradley Hallman's YouTube channel, we came in here, we sat actually at this very table when the BFE, the best flipper ever, was developed, and there's a really cool walkthrough of the Big Bite Baits factory, the stuff that we could actually show, because you have some proprietary stuff here because you guys pour a lot of plastics here. That's how much, Scott, how much plastic like goes through this thing? Like, is that public information? Like, how many pounds of like plastic baits would you say you make in a given year in this little compound here?
I would say not on pounds, but I could say we could sometimes make up to 400,000 lures a day.
Wait, 400,000
lures
a day.
Yes, correct.
So that's like pieces of plastic. You guys also pour lead heads.
We pour the lead and stuff in another factory we have in Guatemala.
Okay.
But
400,000.
all the plastic is done here.
Wow. So that includes Big Bite, and then it's also the home of D&J Plastics, which I guess is the parent company.
D&J is actually owned by my father and my mother, Dennis and Joyce, and they're actually the ones that own the manufacturing facility. Big Bite actually contracts through them to get the lures made, for Big Bite baits.
So if you guys are listening to this, have ever bass fished, you have thrown a piece of plastic that has come out of this.
Most
right
likely.
Not most likely, you have. Is there anybody? I mean, it wouldn't unless you just. There's a lot of plastic that comes through here that people have grown up using.
There really is.
It's how many years ago did your dad start it?
About 26 years ago.
26 years, and then if this room kind of looks familiar, this is also where Coach. He's retired now, right? But he still comes in and does stuff once a week.
That's right. With
Brandon Ray. So Brandon works for Big Bite. This is Scott. So we're going to talk to you. We actually have some really cool stuff here, folks. Like some really cool stuff that we're going to get into the industry side of how it goes down. You have to get out of here in a couple minutes. You put in a long day of work. You got family at home that you got to take care of. But I wanted to have you jump on. So we're going to jump right into it then. This is probably one of your, well, besides the BFE, one of your biggest hits over the last, was this 4 years old now?
Yeah, the Swim On has been a very, very, very good hit for us. And we hit the market right with it at the right time when the chatterbait really took off. And we wanted to build something that would, since we're a plastic company, that we would have something that would work with that lure. And we think we landed on it right with this lure.
All right. Can we do this in 10 minutes? Can we go from concept to package in 5 or 10 minutes in a truncated version? Because I think that there's a lot of stuff in there that people don't realize what it takes. And there's not very many people who actually do, and you specialize in that.
It takes a long time to develop a lure. I mean, you start out with an idea, me or one of the pros or whoever, yourself. You just start out with an idea. you keep working with it. I personally try to get it on paper to kind of draw it up somewhat the way I think it needs to be. Then you really, once you get that idea in your head, you really start trying to put the measurements on paper as well. Kind of like what we did with the BFE.
Okay, so like the graph paper where you're like, hey, this is how big we want the bait. This is what it's going to look like.
That's correct.
And it's still a drawing at that point.
Still a drawing, and you want to get that drawing as close to what you want as possible, because the next step after the drawing is basically what they call a single cavity prototype, and these are not cheap. You have a lot of design work that goes into it for programming and all for the CNC.
Oh, so you take the drawing and you put it into the computer.
You have somebody design your drawing, so they lay out what you got on paper. They have to lay out in the CAD drawing.
How did they do that 20 years ago without computers?
20 years ago, you just sat down with an old machine by hand and did it by hand.
You made this by hand?
Back in the day is what you had to do with a tracing machine.
Explain that one.
It's basically you had it's hard to, you've got like a little deal here and an arm here, and you're moving this one, and it's making what you're drawing here is making it bigger over here.
I see what you're saying. So it's like the same thing. So you're like following the design of the bait, but then it's like over on the other side, and it's copying it exactly.
And cutting it, yeah.
So you had to be fairly steady-handed.
Yeah, and you stood there all day long doing that.
How long would it take to make a single cavity mold then?
It would take a long time back in the day.
And then you go like that and you're screwed.
Yep.
I would not be good at that.
But nowadays, everything's CNC. So you got two concepts. You got a guy that's got to know how to design it.
Okay.
For his programming. And then you got to have a guy that knows how to actually use the CNC machine to actually cut the part. So there's very few people out there who can do both, but a lot of guys can. But I'm just saying, a lot of people are very good at the design part, and other people are good at the machine part. So
one of the things that I was amazed with when Brad and I were in here and you went through, you guys had like a 30 or 40-minute discussion on like hundreds of inches, like centimeters. Like, do you want this millimeters? There's actually millimeters, I think, as far as like plastic thickness and how big you wanted the ribs and how far. Like every single minute detail has to be written or drawn out and then put into the program to make. And then you just have one of these, right? When it comes out. So is this the first one? Is this the swim on?
No, that's actually like Rev 5. It took us 5 different revs.
What's a rev?
Basically revision.
Okay.
Of trying to get, like, say, we would make the part and it would come in a little bit smaller than what we wanted, or didn't have the action in the tail or whatever. So every time you actually made one of these, you played with it in the swimming pool or the lake or whatever. And you went back and you, like, in your mind, this is what I got to do to fix this. I got to do to change this. I got to make this bigger.
So then you have to do a completely new one.
A new one. So that's why you want it as close as you can get it before you ever start, because just one of these, a single prototype, can cost you $250 or more.
And then, so this is the swim on, but you can see, I mean, that thing fits. That's what it comes out of.
That's right.
So this thing then closes like that. So basically you have this and then you shoot it into that.
That's correct.
And then you're like, okay, we got to see it. So then when you're ready to go test it, you're pouring them. So it's at one point when you were pouring these, like you're pouring them and then you're like, hey, these are the only 20 of these in existence.
That's correct.
That's pretty cool.
And then you're taking them to your, like I said, your swimming pool or your lake, and you're really looking and seeing if it's doing what you wanted it to do. You really got to be a fisherman to take it to the next level as well. You got to know what the fishermen want. You got to know what they're thinking, what the lure should do. So,
and that's kind of where you come in, because you're a really freaking good fisherman.
I used to be.
No, you still are. I mean, you don't just not become a fish. You just have been busy in the office lately. That's correct. So that's got to be satisfying. I mean, have you done this where you're like, all right, no one else on earth has this bait, you pour it, you've got a Ziploc bag full of them, you go right out here to Lake Eufaula, and you're like, dude, I'm the first person to have ever caught a fish on this.
Yeah, but that's been great. And also I've had a time or two where I thought, well, man, or just keep this to myself.
What's the best bait in the big bite lineup? Would you say that you have a story of where you were the first one where you were like, dude, this is going to play?
The fighting frog.
Really?
Yeah.
You have the first fighting frogs.
Oh yeah, and it's still a player to this day. So the fighting frog was probably one of the best lures I think we ever designed for big bite baits, and it's still one of the fish catchingest baits that we've got.
So this is kind of where your pro staff comes in, because I mean I'm looking up there and I see Dean Rojas on the cover.
Me and Dean worked tremendously long hours on this project right here. I mean, I couldn't tell you how long we've worked, because I mean we both had ideas for it. He had the idea of basically the shape and the cutouts and everything else, but then I had to actually have the idea of making everything come together and work.
So if I'm correct on this is where it gets complex, because Dean wanted a bait that he could build around. Was it a 4/0 Gamakatsu EWG?
That's correct.
Because he uses EWG hooks, and he also wanted a bait that had no plastic when you set the hook, so it was basically like setting the hook. But he also wanted it like a beefy flipping bait, which is a contradiction.
And then on top of that, he wanted it to swim really nice and subtle in the water.
So on this then, so that was your job then to figure out the slits on the side that would compact on a hook set, the slit on the belly, and then the hook pad on the top. So really, like, how much plastic is actually there when you just the little part that you're going through? That's got to be like, what, a 64th of an inch?
I don't remember off the top of my head now, but it's, we kept cutting it down to where we got it to where he liked it.
So how long was this process? Are we talking like years?
That one took probably 4 months to design from start to finish.
Oh, that's not that long.
It's not that long, but at the time, it was a lot of work went into that 4 months on that bait.
Yeah.
So.
But aren't you guys able to do it quicker too, because you have everything right here and you're not having to send it out and bring it back? So as soon as you've got this, you just go back there and shoot it out, and you're 5 minutes from the lake.
And then I've took times where I'll take, this, and actually we have an actual machine shop ourselves. So I'll take this, and like if something's not deep enough, I'll cut it a little deeper or whatever, and then try it again.
So you'll actually go in there with it?
Yeah, it won't look as professional as a CNC, but then I can get the idea that, hey, this is
CNC
machine.
Okay, that's the machine that they use. Yeah. I ask dumb questions that I don't know about, so.
But yeah, you can do a lot with a prototype and start, going from, okay, what would make this lure kick better? Mm-hmm. And if you can see, like on the fighting frog, we made the legs have a little bit more weight out towards the end, mm-hmm. and that's what helps them kick in the water as you move through the water. So,
all right. So here's let's wrap this up real quick, and then I have one more question for you, and I'll let you get out of here. So then you've got, let's say you have this, and you're like, dude, this is it. It's the nuts. We got it. We're ready to show the world.
That's right.
That's when you have to spend some money then, right?
That's correct. That's when you really have to know that lure is what you want, because you're fixing to spend anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 on a mold that can produce a lot of baits at one time.
And it comes down to you do it.
Yep.
Have you ever done it where you do the whole thing and then you find out that it's not what you wanted and you've had to scrap? Like, what is this? So can we even lift that up just a little bit? So it goes from that one to this one. How many does this make?
Probably 28 or 24 in here.
28 or 24. So how many of these will you have then?
Just one.
So that's it. So all of the swim-ons that come out of Big Bite come out 24 at a time.
Correct. And basically,
I didn't realize that. I thought you had like hundreds of these things.
No, I've got one mold, and we run the machine 24 hours a day around the clock.
Is this the machine?
No, this is just the mold.
Is this the mold?
This is the mold.
So this bait came out of this mold?
That's correct.
So if you own a swim-on, it came out of this mold?
Correct.
The last one that was run was black and blue, right?
Probably.
That's
No, it
freaking
was
cool.
actually hematoma.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
Yep,
So all of the designs, you have one.
that's right.
Did not realize that.
Now, if I have a design I can't keep up with, I have built, another mold where I can keep up with production. But with our factory that my parents have here, the way we run things, I mean, this swim on mold right here will produce about 15 to 20,000 lures in a 24-hour period. So, if not more.
So it's shooting in there, and then it's burning and turning.
Yes.
And that's where you have someone that's on the floor working for you, that's pulling it out with the core on it, popping them out, shooting it back in, popping it out. So I mean, it's
quick. It's about every minute and a half.
So like right now, as we speak, apparently no one is running. There's no swim-ons running.
No, it's not running at this moment, but we're stocked up on them at this time. So
I did not realize that.
As well as this bait sells, I'm sure it'll be back on in another week or so.
All right. Doing the podcast, doing the show on BTL, I'd say 3-4 times a month, I get people that message me, hey, I have the idea for the next $1 million soft plastic. I bet you've heard everything under the sun possibility.
Believe it or not, you'll get 1 or 2 phone calls a week with somebody basically has got the new best lure ever.
Yeah.
And every now and then somebody will bring you something that you want to listen to again. Hey man, maybe I need to talk to you about that. But majority of everything we have has been designed by me, my father, or the pro staff that we have on staff. Now, there's a couple items, the swim on and the kamikaze crawl. Me and a friend of mine kind of went together. He come up with a kamikaze crawl, and it was a great design. So we worked with him through it. And then actually we built the swim on off of the kamikaze crawl. I told him what I wanted the body to look like, and we used the same kind of tail that he had on the kamikaze crawl that had the holes punched in it and all, and it worked well. So
which that is what, when the water goes through the tails on the swim on, that is what allows the tail to swim unlike any other bladed jig because of water display. If you ever notice, like if you use a paddle tail, why the paddle tail doesn't do, it's because of water displacement on the head or around the bait, correct?
Yep.
And these holes then counteract that, which is why that tail goes like that, because water is pushing through those holes. Now, it also is about every 50th cast that your
hook's gonna get
chatterbait hook gets caught in there, but it's well worth it.
It's well worth it.
Well, with that smaller one, it doesn't do it anymore.
That's right.
But anyway, so if someone has the next best, greatest idea, what do they need to do?
If they got the greatest idea, they need to actually look at patenting it themselves before they take it to anybody, even their best friend or whatever. If they've got the best thing ever that's going to change the industry, first thing they need to do is get it to a patent.
Like Ron A. Davis with the bladed with the chatterbait.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that somebody's going to steal your idea, but I'm just saying that cover your own self first. But then if you're going to come to a lure company like us or whatever, I mean, a lot of people will bring it here, but they want you to sign something saying, a non-disclosure or whatever. But most people in the industry are not going to sign anything because of the fact they've already seen everything.
Yeah. Do you think there's something out there in the soft plastic market that has not been developed that is a, I'm going to use the word, and I hate using the word, game changer?
I really think there is, because if you look back, from being in the industry so long, we went from straight tail worms to curl tail worms to curl tail grubs to all this stuff that changed, and then all of a sudden somebody comes out with this thing that looks like a Sharpie marker.
Yeah.
And it changed the fishing industry, which is like a stick bait or something. So something simple is still out there. Believe it or not, it's going to change the industry. Something very simple.
I guess there had to be a first beaver.
Because we're all going crazy with all these different shapes now. But I guarantee you something will come back that's so simple that we've all looked at in our head, and it's just going to change the way everybody fishes again. So,
dude, you got to get back on the water, man.
You're
too good to not fish. Like you're a bit of a legend around here.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, I mean you are. Crazy not. I mean you are.
Absolutely.
You're one of the Eufaula OGs.
I used to be able to catch them pretty good.
You still catch them? Didn't you just almost win a Toyota just like 2 years ago or last year or something?
No, I think I finished I was in the top 10, but I didn't. You know, I probably could have done better that day, but I decided to back off. When you on your home pond and you come out from under the bridge and there's 60 local people follow you to your holes, and you don't think you can win, you just kind of go.
There's no sense. So you literally backed off and didn't want to burn some of your.
I
juice.
did, because the guy ahead of me had so much weight that I didn't think I could catch him. And
That's
I was
smart.
like, well, but then I look back now and I go, man, maybe I should have burned it down.
Yeah, but now you still got your spots. I remember when Christie won the FLW Tour on Grand in 2013. I was covering that tournament, and he won by a lot and knew he was going to win by a lot going into it. And he said that him and his uncles had fished this one stretch for 20 plus years, and that he had not fished it in Nichols and not fished it in big team tournaments, and had literally given up $10,000 to $20,000 tournaments because he didn't want to see anyone there. And he said, dude, if I'm going to burn it down, I might as well burn it down for $100,000.
That's right.
And he burned it down for $100,000.
That's right.
So I'm going to let you get out of here. Thank you very much. That was interesting stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. We are at the Big Bite Bait headquarters, Bassmaster Open, going down on Lake Eufaula in Alabama. This week, the tournament actually starts on Thursday. All of the Open EQ guys, we have like a meeting, and I think they're going to take pictures of our boats and all that stuff on Wednesday. I got off the water. It was blowing like 20 miles an hour today. It was a pain in the butt. We'll have a recap of that Open show too. But live from the Big Bite Baits headquarters in Eufaula, Alabama. Brendan Ray. Dang it. See, here's the problem. I know everybody by their first name, so it's just everything like in my phone. It says Brandon Big Bite.
No worries.
All right, we're gonna come in and talk about some of the new stuff that Big Bite has come out with, and then some of the challenges and some of the things that Big Bite is working on in the future, and maybe see what else we can show around here. So It's BTL on location from Big Bite Baits. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte, sexy shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte, sexy shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, welcome back. We are on location in Eufaula, Alabama, on the shores of Lake Eufaula, the Big Bite Baits headquarters, also the headquarters for D&J Plastics. Really I got to walk through the place a couple years ago when, like I said, we came with Brad, and it is a historic plastic manufacturing company who make a lot of plastics for a lot of companies in the industry, including Big Bite Baits. And Brandon, thanks for jumping on beach. Thanks for staying late too, because you're off of work now. So I mean, there's no one else in the office here. So I was a little messed up because I wasn't sure whether to do 5 or 6, and then I was like, well, we'll do 5, but I thought we were in Eastern time, so we are in Eastern time, but you guys go by Central time.
If that could get any more confusing, absolutely.
Did I say it right?
Yeah. So we're in Georgia, but I guess because Eufaula is the bigger community, we run off of Alabama time or Central time.
Yeah.
So
how long have you been with Big Bite now? You've been with Big Bite, what, a couple years?
yeah, about 2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah.
And how did you get into the industry? How did you get a job with Big Bite?
Well, I guess so. As far as the industry goes, like a lot of people, I mean, I was raised, fishing tournaments, and Eufaula is my home lake. I grew up probably 30 minutes up the road from here.
Okay.
And been fishing down here. My dad, he's fished for, probably 30 years competitively. So
okay.
I've been kind of
so
born
you
into
grew up
it.
on the lake.
And, the gentleman just left, my boss, technically, Scott. He was one of the guys that I grew up competing against. And my dad, was, I guess, the generation before him.
Yeah.
So I've basically known Scott my whole life. And, got a degree and wanted to kind of do something, centered towards the fishing industry that I enjoyed, and they basically raised me, something that I could be around that I like doing. So this just felt like a good place for me to do it. And, the timing seemed to be right, and where they were needing somebody, I kind of filled in for the rather large shoes of the coach and, his day-to-day that he's not a part of all the time anymore.
Does he literally just roll in and do the coach's show and, hey guys, hey, what's up, bro? Take care of stuff. He does it, then heads out and enjoys retirement.
Basically, and I mean, if you know Les, if anybody that does know the coach, I mean, that's not. He doesn't have to get tuned up for that. I mean, that he walks in the door. He's like that when he wakes up in the morning, and he's like that when he goes to bed. And he's going to be like that tomorrow.
He is 100% ready to go. One of the things I want to get into before we get into, I mean, you've got all sorts of different plastics and stuff here. Is you're kind of responsible for the Big Bite Baits pro team.
Sure.
You had you have guys that are competing all the way from BFL and club tournament levels all the way up to the Bass Pro Tour, the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals, the Bassmaster Elite Series,
yep.
Bassmaster Opens, which is what we have going on here. On like a daily or weekly basis, how often do you talk to some of the guys and like what? So like a Dean Rojas or a Drew Cook or a Cliff Perch or something like that. Like how much plastic do those guys actually go through? Like that, like we'll just have a conversation about that. Cause I've always been curious because, I'm on the Big Bite Baits Pro Set. They sponsor BTL and my Opens.
Sure.
But I'm always like, hey man, can I get like 6 packs of those? And I'm like, that's a lot. But then sometimes Les would just send a gallon bag full of the stuff. But like in reality, how much do the top level pros go through? Just between me and you here.
Well, I guess it depends. Some guys, they're just notorious for really keeping it very simple.
Okay, who's the simplest?
To me, one of the guys that really stands out, and Les says this also, is Cliff Perch.
Yeah, he seems simple.
He's one of the guys that for years, it was anything he ordered was like a green pumpkin or just straight black. I mean, just real basic colors, neutral colors.
Okay.
And, then me and Les have talked about it, and maybe one of the guys that orders the most has been guys maybe like Dean Rojas.
Is it true? I have heard that Dean's Big Bite order comes on a pallet.
It has happened before, absolutely. Where you can't, there's too many boxes to just send individually.
But like I said, I mean, Scott was on and he talked about it. That's super valuable when you have top level pros. I mean, I see Drew Cook with the Elite Series, and now I'm looking around at all the different pros that you have on the wall. So that's super valuable to a company when you have a new plastic. Like right now, I would imagine a win on the Cliffhanger Worm would be clutch, right?
Absolutely. No doubt. The Sensation line has been one that was developed, pretty much every shape in that lineup had pro inspiration on it. So it's definitely a valuable asset.
Dean, Drew, but you have contact with the guys pretty much every day, or
pretty regular. I mean, it varies. I mean, in addition to all of the guys at the top level, I mean, there's, I would say, roughly 150 guys at the regional levels.
And you're in charge of all those guys too. So, okay, let's do this. In your opinion, you deal with these guys on a daily basis. What makes a good top level pro?
Well, I mean,
as far as communication with a sponsor like Big Bite Baits, because I mean, this is your job dealing with these guys, and not like individual names, but just what are some things that you look for that everyone in the office is like, man, we really like how that guy conducts his business. What are some of those qualities?
Well, I mean, guys, definitely your performance on the water is one of the things that everybody wants to see you out there, and your brand is grown and strengthened by your tournament success. So that's one of the big deals. Also, your availability to go to either this function or this seminar or, this big expo or something like that. I mean, I know you guys get pulled 1,000 different directions, but, what we're looking at is how you're constantly helping to grow the brand.
Okay.
And then communication. I think that, just staying in touch with us regularly, like, hey, what's going on? What things you guys, promoting now? I mean, everything, it's definitely a seasonal deal. I mean, seasonal techniques, the things that work in the wintertime are not going to work in the spring, or not going to work in the summer. So, I mean, it's just kind of everybody loves to throw a BFE. Everybody loves to throw a fighting frog, but, you have to, as on the business side of things, techniques that might not be the first rod you pick up, they are for another guy. Mm-hmm. So you want to see those guys getting that same. Big Bite also makes this too, all the time. It's all about being at the top of somebody's brain when it's time for them to purchase something. And it's a pro's job to not only help us develop baits, but also help us develop customers in that sense too.
Yeah, that makes sense, to let the general public know what the options are out there.
Sure.
And educate too. So then let's go down to the pro staff level, your guys who are doing this on the weekend, but are still affiliated with Big Bite. I'm assuming get a percentage off. What makes a good? You said you got about 150 of those guys. Roughly. What makes a good? I don't want to use the term lower level, but like a good pro staff guy who's not a full-time professional fisherman that adds value to your brand that you're looking for.
Well, it's really a lot of those same things. And one of the deals that really I can feel like is just the greatest example is Drew Cook.
Okay.
So a few years ago, when Drew was first, getting into the national tournament level scene, he was looking for sponsors, naturally. And one of the plastic that he wanted to throw was a fighting frog. That was his bait. And so he approached Coach, a few years ago and was like, hey, I love you guys' product. Let me be on your pro staff or your field staff, at least just, I just want a chance. And obviously you've seen where that's gone. I mean, he's one of our, correct. He definitely capitalized, but those same characteristics of, he did very well in tournaments. Mm-hmm. He's very approachable. I mean, I know when I first met Drew, that was one of the things that stood out. I mean, and lots of you guys are the same way, never meets a stranger, if somebody comes up and wants to talk fishing or talk anything, he was always there to do that, and talk about anything he could share. He did, made you feel like you were his best friend. That's how everybody wants to feel and get to know you guys. So, doing that, and then just, whereas like the guys that fish the national level, you have a voice to speak to a lot more people at once. But the guys at the regional level, they're able to really drill down to those specific techniques or those little nuances and push, specific products or colors or techniques that way. So that's kind of where it differs just a little bit.
You want to get into some baits?
Sure.
All right, we have a table full of baits here. I'm gonna pan it around just to show what we're dealing with in the office here. But there is a wall of all of the big bite baits. Is that pretty much every bait that you can put in a package right there?
So that basically is a lot of our newer stuff. So
Okay.
stuff that's come out or more popular baits is kind of what's up there.
All right. So let's get into some of them. This was one that you pulled out of the package here, and that is I feel like this was all the rage a couple years ago, and it's kind of quieted down on the line through, but I think you're going to see this play massively this year.
So you've got what we call the B6, and I'm holding up a new color in the B5. So, both of these are line through swim baits. I mean, you can see sort of the hook probably on the bottom of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Your line comes in the top, and you tie that treble hook that's included on, and everybody knows that a line through style bait has been a really key player in a lot of tournaments. I mean, and so we enlarged the bait a little bit heavier, a little bit better profile to draw a bigger bite a lot of times.
That is a heavy bait, so that's going to actually get down there.
Yeah, the B5, it's a lighter bait. It rides a lot higher in the water. So, if you're fishing over shallow grass, it's a good thing, or something like that. And the B6 is going to be more of your fishing laydowns or fishing docks, and really just a chunk and line, easier to cover water with bait.
And then when you want to get it down deep, that's when you go with the suicide shad.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's a great, deep rock piles, ledges, stuff like that. And especially around bigger bait fish like gizzard shad, that's where that bait shines.
I've always found, if not just big bite exclusively, if you want to know the baits that catch fish, look at the catalog, and the baits that have the most colors
Sure.
are the baits that sell the best, which means they're the baits that are very productive. Is that a fair assessment across the board?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say our trick stick, our regular, which this is a wacky stick, but this is, same profile.
Mm-hmm.
That bait has probably the most colors for our bass shape. It's got basically 50 colors in it. So.
And then probably the fighting frog.
Right. It's got about 35, or between 35 and 40.
And then I was super pumped when they were like, hey, let's add some colors to the BFE, because that meant there were some BFEs that were selling, because otherwise you're not adding
Absolutely,
new colors.
yeah. No doubt. You want to add, and it allows you guys to bring unique colors to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got stuff you might not see everywhere.
Do you know how much weight is in the 6? Probably quarter
that
ounce.
one? So I weighed the entire bait when we got those and compared it to a popular harness style swim bait, if you will. That bait there is slightly heavier. That one is a little over 1.5 ounces. It's about 1 ounce and 2/3.
So what I'll say that you're not, it's a little bit heavier than a mag draft.
Yes.
Okay. I said it. Not Brandon. I can say that.
That's right.
All right. Interesting.
But that bait, it achieves the head wiggle that you want to see, in a swim bait in a line through.
And is that just there's a little tube that comes out of the bottom of it?
That's right. Yeah, it's just got basically like the guy. So this bait started as inspiration from Russ Lane with the B5, and he was taking another one of our swim baits and basically poking a coffee straw through it. And
I remember when he used to do that. He'd be like, "Hey, look at this!
That's
look at this modification," and then cutting it at a 45-degree angle, and then running it out of the belly.
So he would do that, and he
was putting a bullet weight in the middle of it, wasn't he?
Yep. He would cut the belly just a little bit and tuck a bullet weight into the bait, and then put his treble up behind there, and just bury one point in like you would do a regular line through. So that's where the B5 comes from. Is basically his exact spec of what he used to throw. And then, obviously, the demand made the B6 have to happen.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we talked a little bit. This is probably the biggest project you guys have going on, and it's the new Sensations that came out last year. 6 different shapes in the Sensation lineup currently?
7 shapes.
7 shapes.
Yeah,
okay.
6 new ones and 1 that was brought over, from the regular plastic, which is scented. I know that some people think that, when we came out with the Sensation and talking all about this scent built in, but the regular plastic does have scent. It's different. It's called Bite Juice, and the Sensation is a totally unique, just different scent.
So the deal with the Sensation is the scent. It's hard to do vibrant colors with that set, and I think across the board you'll see that too. It's a completely different plastic compound. But that seems to be I guess the arms war right now in the plastics are these scented plastics that are infused throughout.
Well, the scented plastic is obviously, I guess the need for that was exposed up north. Fishing for smallmouth, that's where it became just super.
Which
evident.
is why you have the Somali and like you have some very smallmouth shapes.
Right. And, those sort of finesse style smallmouth shapes, that's where you see everything kind of stem from.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, everybody also knows that a trick bait, trick stick style, just stick bait profile around largemouth. I mean, the scent, people have been using scent forever, around these fish too down south. And I mean, it definitely makes a difference. I mean, when you're able to mimic something that you really feel like they're keying on. And the sensation formula is kind of a blend of basically things that bass across the country eat.
Yeah.
You were part of helping us develop the scent and got to kind of test the scent out as we were developing it. I mean, it took about 2 years to get it to where everybody was satisfied and felt like you could target smallmouth up north or, largemouth in Florida or, anywhere in between.
I think so. I'll do a little trick. Once again, I say it. So I'll take a sensation and I like to pull it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I like to go like that with it
to kind of,
and I feel like it. I feel like it kind of opens those pores up a little bit,
right.
and it softens it. I mean, I like doing that too. I mean, look at how smell that. After I did that, it's intense.
It definitely brings it out.
I think it kind of opens those pores out. So I like to take it and just rub it a little.
That's a
little rough it up a little bit, and I think that makes it key. Is this the Michael Neal one?
Yeah, that's the skinny stick.
So another pro design. This one is very interesting. I've not exactly figured out how, but Michael Neal uses this like
doing everything
constantly. He will drop shot it. He'll Texas rig it. He'll weightless. He'll Nico rig it. Yeah. He'll do all sorts of stuff with the skinny stick in it. So the 7 shapes are the Somali Smasher, right? Somali, skinny stick. Oh, show Drew Cook's thing.
Yeah, the quarantine crawl.
So that's an interest. That's 100. Like these are actually that's 100% a Drew Cook deal.
Right, correct. So everybody knows him as the, fighting frog guru, kind of the king of that bait. Obviously,
is that the same?
So these are the feet off of the 3-inch.
Oh, I did not realize that is the exact same.
It's the same feet. So you've got a 4-inch fighting frog, and this is the feet off the 3-inch fighting frog.
I did not realize that was the same thing. So that's a little hybrid mix between a Ned and a fighting frog.
Right, and Drew started off. He was just cutting the feet off a fighting frog and gluing them to a finesse grub or a trick stick body, and just to make just a really do-all like Texas rig. There's flipping bait or a jig trailer is kind of where he stemmed from, and obviously it's gone where, I mean, you can't figure out what this bait couldn't be used with.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
I mean, he was putting it on a chatterbait in Florida.
Yeah, that would work too.
So I mean, he was taking it like he does the fighting frog and turning it up sideways, and he was taking where those claws are from vertical, and it swims. It looks just like the tail of a brim or something. Huh.
And then, speaking of the pro staff guys, this was Cliff Purchase project. So didn't Cliff have like a winter odyssey where he just like worked on plastics for like 4 months in Arizona with his buddies?
Basically, and I mean, I guess it seems like I know you and Scott talked a lot about the prototype process and making that become, taking it from an idea to the actual production bait. I mean, Cliff was sending us cut up baits, that he was taking and gluing this and that together, cutting the feet off that and the body off this, and kind of Frankenstein and stuff that he wanted.
So that is the actual tail off of your frog.
Yes, the tour toad.
The tour toad.
That's right. So those feet, the thing he really likes about it is the fact that they come together, but you can probably see that they're basically cut style, but they're molded together, and they just have like perforated pieces that you can rip a little at a time or open all the way up and affect the action of the bait. So that's what he liked about it, is you can leave them together and it's a lot more subtle, or pull them open and it swims just very lively.
And then a chunk body that you can either just chunk it, just put it on, or you can thread it. Absolutely. So he wanted the body that was long enough to where you could do both.
That's right. That's exactly right. I guess out there where those lakes he fishes in Arizona, that's the profile he felt like was a little I mean, there's really not a lot of chunk jig trailers that are that shape.
No, it'd probably be a good swim jig trailer.
Right. That's
A
what
real good swim jig trailer, like we were.
I know. Drew Cook and Drew Benton both, they were giving good feedback on it. You know, at Okeechobee, they were both catching fish on it doing that. So that, in matter of fact, I think it was mentioned in the top 10 for Cook that he was putting that on a swim jig in a tilapia color.
That's good stuff. All right. One of the other things Big Bite does really well is packaging, bulk packaging. What do we have as far as the Pro Packs and the Mega Packs now?
So a lot of your most popular shapes, you know, like the Fighting Frog, you can buy in a 25 count.
What color is that in?
That's BTL.
What color?
I figured you would notice that.
Oh, look, it's kind of like BTL right there. That's the old Bass Talk Live color in the Fighting Frog. That's a new color for the Fighting Frog that came out last year as well. So the the BTL color, which is, sorry, I'm going to derail you here for a minute because I'm very proud of the BTL color.
It's
is June bug on one side, chartreuse streaks on the side, and then black.
That's right.
And this thing mimics a bluegill. It mimics all sorts of little bait fish really well. It's got to be a bestseller, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is in that.
You don't have to lie.
No,
it's not.
It's one of the better selling colors, especially in the BFE. And
yeah,
we do it in the Fighting Frog and also the Yo Mama. So,
but that is an ode to the old bass zone. So actually, if you remember, if you look at my studio at home, Bass Zone started out as purple. Jeffries was purple.
Right, I remember that.
Which is weird, but he was. And then obviously the old Bass Zone was black and chartreuse. Mm-hmm. So we combined all of the old stuff for the BTL color, and then still obviously black and chartreuse is the chartreuse is the BTL. So that's literally the BTL color right there.
I didn't know that's how you guys come up with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's how I came up with the BTL color. That's the ode. That's why it's called BTL.
And then, you know, those baits, there's certain shapes that come in the 25 packs, and then there's also some that come in these mega packs, the 100 count bags. So you got your 25 count Pro Pack and then your 100 count mega pack. So it just varies. Baits like your trick stick are going to be what you find in your 100 count, and your Fighting Frog, BFE, you can find those in your 25 count bags.
And then do you guys, okay, so Big Bite has two different colors of packaging. If I speak out of turn.
Three technically now.
Three technically now?
But well, with the Sensation.
Okay, yeah. So you've got this in the Sensation.
Right.
And then you've got the yellow and red, which is the
Pro Series bags.
No, the yellow and red are.
The yellow and red, that's your Pro Series.
Okay.
The black and silver or your black and red, that's your Tour Series.
Okay,
bag.
Pro Series and then Tour Series.
Right.
So the Tour Series, explain the difference between those. Like if you're ordering it on Omnia, if you're on the Big Bite website, if you walk into an academy, what are the differences in the bags? Obviously the tan, or what is that, gray?
Sort of, yeah, gray color is the best way to put it. It's
gray color is the Sensations, but
Yep.
Explain the difference between the red and yellow and then the black.
So your red and yellow bags, that's our standard. We call Pro Series bags.
Okay.
But the baits that you're going to find in those are going to be, I guess, in some ways, shapes that have been staples for a long time, you know, just, I guess, or older shapes.
Okay.
And stuff that either was developed like, you know, just by the staff here, like Scott and his father, whereas your Tour Series stuff has a lot more influence from you guys. So just about every shape you find in
He
that
uses
line,
you guys very loosely.
well, you're pro. You've had a lot of input in stuff so far, and I'm sure it's only going to increase. So
Yeah. So that's more like what we just talked about. This is the Sensations, but what we just talked about with
your BFE is going to come in your black bag, and you know you and Bradley have a lot to do with that bait and the way that it's designed. And so your pro-inspired baits, like your Tour Swim Worm, that was developed by Mike McClelland.
Yep.
You know, that's another shape that you're going to see there. The Smalley Smasher was originally a Tour Series bait, now a Sensation bait. That was developed through, I guess, one of the field staff guys had a lot to do with that bait, and then it was kind of finalized by testing on the elite field and the MLF circuit. So that bait kind of came from a gem of the northern world and was it was actually originally was just a garage hand pour,
Okay.
up north around Lake Erie, and evolved into what it is now in the Smalley Smasher. So.
I like it. Do you think I can? Can you send me some of these Pro Packs of BTL so I can give them away on the show throughout the year?
Yeah, we can do that.
I think that would be cool. I'd like to give away some BTL
Yeah, we can
colored big bite baits.
We can do Fighting Frogs or BFEs.
That looks good, doesn't it? Or the Yo Mama. The Yo Mama has a cult following.
Yes.
Big time cult
It's
following.
probably one of the, I guess, least talked about beaver style baits. Really.
It is. So I was fishing Nichols with my buddy Brock 2 years ago. He's like, "You want to jump into Nichols?" It's in March. We're like,
Right.
"Yeah." His dad, Troy, I guess I'm giving it away, loves the Yo Baba, buys them by like the thousands. Like
Okay.
just, I don't know how. He's got a vat of Yo Mamas.
Wow.
Anyway, he's flipping the Yo Mama and boat flips a 786 on it in the Nichols. The biggest fish he's ever weighed in. The guy after him in line had like a 789. We ended up
That's my look right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, show a couple more shapes. We'll wrap it up. We'll let you get home to get to dinner. I got a 45-minute drive back to the place that I'm staying at with Andrew and Joe LaBarbera for the Bassmaster Open. And while I'm at it, guys, Wednesday, 2 p.m., either one or two, I'll have to check on which it is. I will have Hank Weldon on live prior to the meeting, going to talk about some of the changes in the Bass Nation that came out, and also talk about the Bassmaster Open EQs, how you guys can follow that and what to expect on that this year. But wrap us up with a couple of the other new things. I know you guys have been hard on the minnows, and then this is also a little crazy cool core shot pour.
Right. So we were just going to show a couple of color examples of things we can do. I know core shot seems to have kind of faded away, but that's basically your clear outside and then what we would call huckleberry on the inside. So it's like a electric grape and then chartreuse inside, but you can see that outer shell.
What is the name of this color?
That's just clear huckleberry core.
That's a cool one.
So that's one that, core shot, that was like, Scott talked about kind of the history of plastic and how things went. Your shapes have evolved from your just straight tail stuff to all these fancy tails. Well, colors have done something similar. You don't see a lot of core shots anymore, but they're still a really cool, unique look to baits than what
and
you
that
do.
that little 4-inch ringworm was like the worm of the 80s.
Sure. And I guess still the worm of, some techniques. I mean, we do, aside from just bass, we also do stuff for, your panfish like crappie and also walleyes.
Yeah. You guys have some unique, grab that new jig head right there. Yeah, the pendulum jig head. So Big Bite also, I don't think people realize, have a lot of cool different jig heads that you can order, and they're very reasonably priced if you're buying it in the back. So this was that's on a swim bait too, but here's something that a lot of people don't talk about on the pendulum jig head. Here, show them on that with the bait.
So you can see.
So if you're Demiki rigging,
I'm holding the line tie, and then you can rotate the bait all the way around because of the swivel.
There is a bulb, a swivel built into the eye of the bait. So when you're Demiki rigging and you're holding it, that bait can rotate around and you eliminates line twist.
That's right.
Which is something that's really unique.
Well, and it definitely makes a difference. I mean, if you Demiki rig or anything like that long enough, I mean, it'll just trash your leader or your spinning rod line. I mean, just the.
I'm gonna grab this one because I'm using this. This week. What is this one? I got this. This is a fairly newer one.
So that's a mag head.
This is the only shaky head hook that I will use with the spring. We'll just say that out there because we had Casey Ashley on who's like, don't use a spring.
Right.
But this one on a beefier plastic on a hook, this will be in the boat tied on and used this week.
So that head there, actually, we call it the mag head or the Magnum worm head. And it really came about on this lake. I mean,
oh, that's good to know.
I mean, fishing a big shaky head is something that really is popular around here. And I mean, I know lots of other places too, but that head evolved from us throwing our 8-inch finesse worm and needing a big head to handle big fish in deeper water. So that's kind of where everything, that had evolved from. And obviously you've got to have a stout hook to handle those big fish.
All right, dude. Anything else?
I think that's about it, man.
I greatly appreciate you stopping by, or me stopping by, letting me stop by and do a show from the Big Bite headquarters. Like I said, in Eufaula, Alabama, for the start of the 2023 Bassmaster Open EQs. Saw Ish's truck in the parking lot. Brian New went flying by me. I saw Steve Kennedy out there today. I think Hackney's fishing this thing.
I saw Gary Klaus yesterday.
Yeah.
Polnick's
fishing it too?
Scott said he saw Polnick.
Golly. Drew Cook's fishing it. Yeah. Apparently it's just the elite qualifiers and the Bassmaster Elite. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes down. No show tomorrow. We will be back on Wednesday with another live show, like I said, with Hank Weldon. If you guys have any questions about Big Bite, you can check it out, bigbitebaits.com. You can also shoot me a DM. I answer questions about any of the baits and stuff that I'm doing. Brandon, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. Scott Montgomery, like I said, he had a place to be and wasn't thrilled with doing live stuff. He's like, I'm like, come on, dude, you got a year late for me. You got to come on. So big congratulations to him. And Wednesday live, and then the first day of the tournament on Thursday. So this has been another episode of BTL Live on Location. If you guys like the live on location stuff, we're going to be doing more and more of this as the year progresses. Thumbs up, like it, let me know. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Have a good evening. See ya.